Aaron doing this week?
Not sure. He did a Torah study this morning for his job.
How did that go?
I listened to the first half. It sounded great.
Yeah, I'm sure it was great.
Yeah.
How was the rest of the wedding?
Oh, it was good. Yeah.
What was she upset about? No, I just know there was something like right before. Ever since like the state thing, nobody ever said anything. It's not a big deal. They were happy. That's great. But that was it, right?
Yeah.
Very okay. Now, Margaret, I wrote back to you, but I want to make sure you saw it. I got everything you sent, so we're all ready for tomorrow. Okay? We got you covered on this end. It'll be great. Now, thank you. Thank you. Exact opposite. All right. We missed having you around, It is not the same without you, for sure. Keelan is amazing, though. He remembered all of the old melodies as if nothing had changed.
Of course he did.
Like, instantaneously remembered all of them. It was such a fantastic thing. Also, Sukkot is a long holiday. Right? Let's just opine on that for just a moment. It's like, it's really, because you finish Yom Kippur and you think, in our line of work, you think you're done, go home and take a nap. And Sukkot is a holiday because right at the beginning of it, the Shabbat in the middle of it has its own special things to do, and then Shmini Atzeret Simchas Torah is the most complicated service probably of the whole year that is not Yom Kippur. So it's like running a marathon and then telling people to run another couple miles afterwards, just to loosen up a little bit, I guess. It's good for you. That's what that's what they always tell me when it's hard. They tell you it's good for you, but it is. It is good for you. It's good for me. It's good for all of us. It's a good thing, and it's good to have Cantor Lauren back with us. Cantor, I think we'll start with candle. I'm now forgetting already. 2 weeks, and it's like I forget the whole.
Yeah, sorry, Cantor.
We'll start with candles on page 120. You're welcome to join me at home if you have candles to light, and the blessing is on page 120, and I'll do the lighting.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Okay, we'll turn now to page 128, the third song down from the very top of the page. Just out of curiosity, does it sound better? I tried to make the sound a little bit. Does it sound better to you guys at all? Can you hear a little quick? Okay. Susie's saying yes, so I'll go with that. Okay, fine is also good. Fine is an acceptable answer when it comes to things like this. It's magic. I can't give away all my answers. No, I'll tell you, 30 seconds. So these are the built-in mics that they have here. And what I decided was to plug in actually our old mic from the temple with the wire there. And so it's a much better mic, and it's designed to pick up differently, because I realized, no, I said just as a 30-second off, I realized that actually in most cases, I'm sure for their main service here on Sunday, right, the choir is really who's singing, okay? But the people who are up here are mostly speaking. So these kinds of mics are really designed much more for speaking than they are for singing. So if you turn the volume up too much on this, it'll blow the speakers out, whereas these mics that we have are much more designed for. Well, her especially, she could, without a doubt. So long as that, okay, good. I'm shooting for that good. It's acceptable. Acceptable. Loud. Well, Oh, this is good for This is good for all of us. And while you're watching at home, this probably has nothing to do with you because you have a whole different mic that's picking up yours. But we want to make sure everybody's well taken care of here. Anyway, enough about mics. We're going to turn to page 130. We'll start Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page. We're now on page 131, Shir Ladonai, beginning in the Hebrew in the middle of the page. Turn now to page 132, the last paragraph in Hebrew at the bottom of the page. Turn now to page 134. Page 135, Romamu, the middle Hebrew paragraph, right there in the middle of the page. We'll turn now to page 138, L'chadodi, beginning at the top of the page, and again we'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs.
בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך אדוני לקראת קלה, עיני שבת נקבלה. לך אדוני לקראת קלה, עיני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו בנחת, כי מקור הברכה, בראש מקדם לזכותך, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך אדוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך אדוני לקראת קלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי בעורף קומי אורי, אורי ונשמה לקבלה, וחדותי לקראת כלה, ונשמה נקבלה.
We rise and face the door.
בואי בשלום הטרף עלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לחדותי לקראת כלה, ונשמה נקבלה,
וחדותי לקראת כלה, ונשמה נקבלה.
Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 140 and Psalm 92.
צדיקת אמר יפרח, כארץ בלמונן יזכה,
Turn now to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקנא ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
ויעמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי,
וחייכנו ויומכנו ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב,
ויאמרו
אמן. יהי שמרה מברך, לעולם לעלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם יינשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל מרחתה ושירתה.
תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירה ועלמה,
ויאמרו
Amen. We rise for the Baruch Hu on page 146.
Listening to my prayer, and you hear my
seated. We'll read together now on the top of page 149. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Shemo.
המעריב הרביב.
Amen. We're on page 150. Turn now to page 152 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Let's read together on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Let's read together on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. As we turn to page 158, Mi Chamocha. We'll turn now to page 160, Hashkiveni. Turn now to page 162, Vishamra, at the very top of the page.
Ooh, that's a little too high. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת מי נפש שבת מי נפש שבת מי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
In a moment, we will begin the Amidah together on page 164, and we'll rise in body or spirit. This will be the first Amidah in a while where I don't have to give any special instructions. It's a normal Shabbat Amidah, but as always, use it in the most meaningful fashion that you can muster. But again, we'll rise in body or spirit, and we'll begin together on page 164, and then continue silently. And please, as always, go at your own pace, and when you're finished, you may be seated.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו
turn to page 371 for our Misha Berach this evening, I will begin by thinking of those in our community and connected to our community in need of healing. Oren Nachum, Bruce Steger, Chana Ruth Bat Sarah, Jeff Baker, David Tasher, Jim Cohen, Monique Rathbun, Lindsay Epstein, Dolores Michka, Sylvia Orn, Yerachmiel Ben Hinda, Paloma Chauhan, Samuel Moskowitz, Chaim Leib, Joyce Weinberg, Rick Gold, Stu Pollack, Jane London, Catherine Guarino, Emunah Chava, Judy Stern, Miriam Cornfield, Raz Brody, Chana Ruth Bat Sarah, Fagel Tzipora Bat Elisheva Bat Sarah, Richard Gambino, Michelle Sawicki, Idol Basha Bat Yitzchak, Tzvi Menachem Ben Chaim, Rivka Bat Avora, Amy and Gavin Tucker, Janice Kurz, David Dowling, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Ben Sion Ben Moshe, Lorraine Danis, Buddy Kassoff, Shelley Newmark, David Kyle Klopman, Rivka Bat Rachel, Sarah Bat Chana, Moshe Eliezer Ben Sivya, Peretz Ben Yehuda, Leah Bat Naomi, and Gedalia Ben Leah. And of course, if you're watching at home, we'll allow you an opportunity to share names that you may be thinking of this evening. And for those that are with us here, we'll start on this side of the room and work towards the back, and then this side of the room. And if you have names to share, just please raise a hand so I make sure I get everybody. And we'll join together now on page 371 as the cantor leads us in our Misha Berach. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Cantor, you can take a little bit of a break. So this is fun. I get to teach you something tonight that we can know is wise because it doesn't come from me, but I'm going to share it with you. But it comes via Howard Schwatzky, which is always a good sign. Okay, and if you'd like to, you can actually read the entirety of it on a Reformed Jewish website that I always forget the URL for. But most importantly, who is the teacher? Our very own Dasi Berkowitz. Okay, so those that remember in this room, I think everybody remembers, right? Everybody. This is great. Right, Rabbi Leon Morris, Dasi Berkowitz, I would not be standing here talking to any of you were it not for them. Chances are none of us would be talking to each other if it were not for them. And as was such a wonderful thing, right? Leon obviously is a wonderful teacher in his own right. Dasi was also an integral part of learning and experience here at the temple, and she has very much continued her work. And what I'm going to share with you is actually an excerpt from the book that she wrote, which is called Soulful Parenting, or Becoming a Soulful Parent, A Path to the Wisdom Within. So we actually got to do a Zoom with her over the summer, and we talked about the book at length. But she happened to write in one of these sections a little bit about this week's Torah portion. Right? Remembering again, all right, this will be a good test. What is the Torah portion this week, everybody? Very good. Well, Margaret is teaching our women's Torah commentary tomorrow, so I should hope that she should know, okay? But this is the easiest question of the year, right? Because we just did Simchas Torah. We know we're starting Breshit again, and man, we've read the story since creation, right? It seems like we've turned it over in every conceivable angle. And as we tend to do, right, we focus on all of the creative parts, right? What creation looked like. But there is this really fascinating, enigmatic beginning that in Hebrew we are told is called tohu vavohu. Tohu vavohu. Does that sound familiar to anybody? It's okay, furrowed brows. When I was a kid, it jumped out at me because it just sounded like a very interesting phrase, even if I didn't know what it meant. And the truth is, we don't exactly know what it means. It is describing basically before creation, right? What was creation created into? And all we're told in Hebrew is tohu vavohu, which again have really almost no other translation. And so depending on which translation you're looking at, it may say something like null and void or nothingness or chaos or whatever it may be. But it's the before, okay, of which we really have no concept other than the fact that creation seems to be in some ways an answer to it, or even perhaps its antithesis. Okay, so here's where Dasi comes in, and again, she frames this within the book as being a teaching exercise for how to raise children. So I highly recommend that you go and read this in its entirety. I'm going to have to pull the pieces together in a slightly different way than perhaps she did just in its original intention. But I thought she really caught on to something very powerful here, and I wanted to share it with you tonight. So she starts as follows. She says, have you ever wondered why the Torah bothers to tell us about the initial chaotic state of the world? And why bother? Why doesn't it just go directly and continue Vayhi or, and there was light? Life would be so much easier that way, so much more efficient. You begin, you create the container, right, the heavens and the earth, and then you focus on content. Light, insight, keep it positive, people, she says. You can almost hear Adasi's voice in this. It's really that wonderfully hurt, right? But the Torah doesn't begin that way, she says. Deeply embedded into the fabric of existence from the very beginning of mythic time is something called tohu vavohu. The earth was, and she translated here, which I love, without form and void. Okay? So what is this mysterious tohu vavohu, and why is it situated right at the beginning of time? Tohu can be translated either as chaos or as emptiness. It is an uncultivated state of being, untouched by the hand of order. But then we see, as the second verse of Genesis relates, quote, the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. Thus, the chaotic state of the world is calmed and tamed by the consciousness that there is something that guides tohu vavohu from above. She continues, finally, after all this chaos comes order. God enters with a clear stage direction. Quote, God said, let there be light, and there was light. And from here, order proceeds straightforwardly. God appreciates the light as good. God makes distinctions between light and darkness. God names the light day and darkness night. There was evening, there was morning, day one. But Dasi continues, we might prefer that the idea that order is always possible. Okay, we might prefer that idea if we only work hard enough, or that our outer lives might radiate this sense of order and control. But, she says, our inner lives tell a very different kind of story. Our inner lives are really full of complexity, of inconsistency, and sometimes a sense of even confusion or chaos. Many of us, she says, have at one point thought that every problem needs to be met with a solution, sometimes from a consultant or even perhaps a specialist. In our culture, we have a tendency, she says, to overdiagnose. We live and teach the illusion that everything can be cured, and we rush, therefore, to intervene. So here we'll pause for a second. Okay, so I think she's highlighting a few really important ideas. First, that we don't associate this idea of tohu vavohu as, first of all, as being negative, right? As I said before, one can easily read the story of creation and say the tohu vavohu was bad, and therefore everything that follows is good, right? Creation is necessary because whatever was happening before was, as she says, right, uncontrolled, unaffected by order. Okay, so that's the first thing that she points out. The second thing is that she points out that our tendency when we are affected by a chaotic reality, externally or internally, as human beings, is to rush to a fix-it mentality. Okay, there's chaos, therefore we must bring order, right? There's something that's out of whack, we need to bring it into alignment. It's a part of our natural response in almost every case, and truth be told, it's not a bad thing, right? We wouldn't be talking to each other. Human beings would not have lasted if that wasn't our mentality in most cases, right? When we're faced with chaos or challenge or strife or something that is not in alignment, we do, more often than not, need to take an active role in trying to repair. Part of our job as Jews, as we talk about all the time, is this idea of tikkun olam, right? Tikkun is only necessary if something is broken. Tikkun means to repair something. Okay, so we understand that, and certainly Dasi is not arguing that we should cease to do that by any means. Okay, but she wants to sort of get us to think a little bit differently about tohu vavohu, and she says that perhaps recognizing that tohu vavohu is actually an essential stage in life's development, right? That creation could not exist if tohu vavohu didn't exist prior to it, or even in some combination with it. So if we can see tohu vavohu not as an enemy or an antagonist, but really actually as an essential aspect of life and our pursuit through it, right, can help us to become less agitated when the clear structure of our lives is derailed. She's basically saying, if instead of, again, trying to fight it or ignore it or run away from it, but acknowledge the fact that no matter what we do as human beings, we will carry a certain amount of both inner and outer tumult, that we will exist without question in a life that carries chaos and disorder and sometimes a sense of void or disconnection, right? If we understand and acknowledge the fact that that's part of our lives as well, then perhaps we can approach it, as she says, with a clearer idea or clearer structure, right, that helps us to process in those moments. But here's the piece that I really want to get to, and I'm going to push a little further than she actually goes. So she says the other thing to do is that sometimes, right, even with our best of intentions to control or to fix, sometimes that's just not possible, right? Sometimes that internal chaos or that external chaos is not so easily solved. It remains in a tohu vavohu state, okay? And we can't will it away, and we can't change our mentality to make it make sense. There are going to be times where that's the case too. And Dasi, while she is very much a visionary and an optimist, is also a realist and understands, especially in the world of parenting, that no matter what you do, there is going to be a very good amount of chaos on a regular kind of basis. Okay? So she says there's another way for us to approach this, perhaps, which is to go back to the image that we have from the verse that follows the description of tohu vavohu. Right? What does the Torah tell us? Right? That God basically sort of is over the waters. And as she describes it earlier on, right, that presence of God above the chaos is the calming effect. Right? That God's involvement in creation is what helps to bring a sense of, order is probably too strong of a word, right? But a sense of understanding to a complex situation, to the chaos, again, both within and without. And in Dasi's way, actually, in another part of the article, as she so beautifully did to be as inclusive as she was, she said, define that God idea however you want to, be comfortable in it, whatever, I want to just push us a little bit further, okay? It's a new year, I'm your rabbi. Let's talk about God for a second, okay? Let's just lay that out there as a possibility amongst the possibilities, okay? Maybe your lives are feeling a bit chaotic. I know mine is. Okay, maybe the world is feeling a bit tohu vavohu on a regular basis. It certainly is. There's no question about it. So perhaps we can let God into this equation for a little bit. Okay, perhaps we can actually take a little bit of a step outside of ourselves this year and push our spirituality a little bit further. Right? Let God as a concept, right, expressed in all the various kinds of ways that our tradition does, through our prayer, through our Torah study. Let's see if we can also see God as one of the soothing aspects in our chaos, right? To look to God as that source of calming the waters, again, both internally and externally. I know that may be something of a radical position for a Reform rabbi to take from the Bima, but, I'm feeling that, more and more these days. That I think for me personally, that sense of sort of inner faith, whatever it be as complicated as it might be and as varying as it might be from day to day and moment to moment, that really believing the words that we say together from our liturgy, right? Believing that there is the possibility of a God who cares about us and is capable of bringing that sense of calmness into our lives. That perhaps, maybe we need to think a little bit more in those kinds of ways. And as I said, Dasi was saying it too, just in her gentle kind of way that she does, her sort of open-minded way of doing it. And that's, it's my approach as well. But I do feel like from time to time that it's important to really name it, right? You know, we as Jews, right, we believe in the idea that God is a part of our existence. And I think we get further and further away from that sometimes. And that now of all times might be a really good time to investigate that a little bit further, inside and perhaps even as a community. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. I know there's no way that she's watching because it's got to be 3 o'clock in the morning in Israel, but I hope if I will write her to let her know that I taught this tonight. And really, I do highly recommend both reading the article in its entirety. It is on the Reform Judaism website. You can email Howard Schwatzky and he'll tell you exactly where to find it. And also to, if you have either children or grandchildren of your own, her book is really excellent and it's full of a lot of these kinds of teachings that as I said, the real focus of this article was much more on parenting, and there's a whole bunch of great parenting stuff there. May have to try that out tomorrow. We'll see. At least I have an excuse. I could use all the help I can get. That much I can say. So with that, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and hopefully a beautiful beginning to our new Torah cycle as well. And just a reminder, and I'll remind everybody again, Margaret Bromberg teaching tomorrow morning, Parshat Breshit, Women's Torah Commentary. It's going to be great. So please join us on Zoom. We can learn a little bit more about the Parsha. And cantors are already back up and ready to go. So we're going to rise in body or spirit as we turn to page 586 at the bottom, Aleinu L'Shabbat.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo samach chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. Vanachnu korim umishtachamim modim lifnei mehalech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Page 591.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
I'll invite those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We begin by thinking of those who passed in our community in recent months. Sylvia Alderman, Morris Dickstein, Fred Eber, Sandra Furman, Evelyn Gelb, Lucy Gladstone, Arthur Grossman, Elaine Grossman, Phyllis Katz, Jeanette Kopp, Audrey Lubo, Morty Lynn, Jerry Monroe, Harry Olstein, Danielle Lisa Rigg, Geraldine Rosen, Harriet Roth, Jeannie Rubin, Howard Schreier, Dorothy Shupnick, Paul Silver, Marlise Silverberg, Blanche Sklar, Rita Sandra Snyder, Joan Strong Tanzilius, Virginia Tizer, and Ann Weiss. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Dr. Paul Abrams, Miles Ambrose, Margaret Benjamin, Jerome Bloom, Joseph Barak, Yvonne Cohen, Charles Agosi, Marcia Zweig Esses, Joe Ferrente, Judy Friedman, Ben Gauze, Joan Gilbert, Harriet Raff Goldstein, Georgette Huberman, Esther Cosberg, May Bruckman Levine, Paula Nelson, Gary Nussbaum, Fanny Peskowitz, Bernard Radetzky, Dinah Radetzky, Rona Rube, Max Rosenthal, Julius Scheinert, Clara Simon, Rose Slutsky, Katie Spitz, John Strong, and Shira Zeller. Does anyone else have a name of someone for whom you're saying Kaddish that we did not mention? Mike, you got somebody? No? In solidarity with their loved ones, we will rise as the mourners join in saying the Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya. V'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'mromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Zichronam Livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing.
Amen.
Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Okay, so before I go any further, I believe someone has a birthday coming up shortly, Bonnie, yes? So a happy birthday to you, and I know we can't eat the cake and do all of the things that we normally did, but I know, right, Ira's got you covered. You're gonna have a good birthday. It's coming up the 4th, yes? There you go. I can't imagine how I would have possibly known these things, but somebody who loves you may be in that row and cares deeply about you, as do we. So we wish you very much a happy birthday. And please do tell me when it is everybody's birthdays. I appreciate knowing these things. I barely remember when my own one is anymore, so I need a little help in that regard. But Bonnie, we love you and happy. Mike, is your birthday too? Minna's birthday. You know what? What did Minna do for her birthday? She went to the beach in Tel Aviv. That's all right, Bonnie. We're not trying to compare birthdays, but that's a pretty good birthday. So Ira, you got a couple of days. We can get her to Tel Aviv. That might be worthwhile. But really, wish her a happy birthday from all of us too. That's really lovely. And speaking of Brombergs, when do you leave for Israel? Okay, so we have more. We'll give you a Nesiyat Tova before you leave. That's very important. Okay, so some important announcements. As I said, please join us for Shabbat services beginning tomorrow at 9:30. If you'd like to join us here live and you have your vaccinations, you are welcome to join us. We'll be at the chapel right next door. Anybody who wants to watch online will be on our website, YouTube, and Facebook. Reminder again that Torah study will begin promptly at 12 o'clock on Zoom. And Margaret, we are very grateful that you're going to teach us this month, and you've got certainly a very full parsha to explore, and we're really looking forward to it. So thank you. And again, a reminder, we are always looking for teachers for our Women's Torah commentary. We promise, even if you've never done it before, you've never taught Torah before, we promise we will help you. Ruth, Margaret, myself, Leah, everybody will help, okay? Everybody is capable of being a Torah teacher. I promise you. I promise you. I promise you. So please, put yourself out there on a limb this year. Give it a shot. Other things coming up. Monday, 11:30, Nina Mitzvah will be meeting. Then at 3:30, we have Hebrew school, which has been going great, by the way. We've been very lucky. The weather's been nice, and we've been outside, and the kids are great and, hilarious and sarcastic all at the same time. It's been really wonderful. And also the Social Justice Committee will be meeting virtually at 5 o'clock. A reminder, there is still time to sign up for our boat tour at the aquarium in Riverhead. So if anybody's surprised by this or doesn't know what we're talking about, have you ever been to the aquarium in Riverhead? It's great. It's great. Eva loves it. It's Eva endorsed. But there is a lovely little sort of, trip around the Peconic area there. And it's great. So we hope for good weather. And we would love for you to be able to join us. And I know it's a sort of strange timing, but it's Wednesday at 11:30. So please do let us know if you can come, because we need to make sure we've got everybody accounted for. Hebrew School will also still be meeting later that afternoon as well. My classes will resume towards the middle of the month. In a couple of weeks, I just need a little bit of a breather before we get started again. And a reminder also to just check your monthly calendar. There's a lot of other things going on in October for sure. I think that was everything on my list. Anything, Cantor? No? You deserved a time off, and we're very happy for you to have had that time off. But we missed you. We're very happy to have you back. Keelan, as always, you're on it. Everybody who's watching, we wish you a Shabbat Shalom. So we're going to have a closing song, and then we'll do Kiddush. So closing song, I'll turn it over to the cantor. Rise and body or spirit as we turn to page 123 for Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'horei perhi hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza v'hanu
ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, היבנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen. L'chaim to you, and l'chaim to you, and l'chaim to all of you. Good Shabbos, everybody, and happy birthday again to Bonnie and to Minna. And good Shabbos to all of our friends on the camera. Hold on, let me get my mask on. All right. Turn our stuff off here. Excuse me.
Oh, that's right, she was. I love that.